Welcome to this special edition of Spotlight that we call GM's Corner. It's a great opportunity for us to talk to Lake Monticello's General Manager, Steve Hurwitz, about what's on his desk and what's on his mind. I'm Marilyn Kozak, sitting in for Ron Kraus. Ron will be back next time. Hi, Steve.
Hello, Marilyn. Great to be here.
Good. Great to have you back. Lots to get through. We're going to try and do it and keep it as on point and short and keep people's attention.
We're both going to earn our money today.
We are, yes. Our big dollars,
yes.
Right? Yes. So I know one of the things that must be frustrating for you as general manager is that you see a lot of information out there. Some of it is true, some of it's misunderstood or taken out of context, and some is just plain false or it's misleading. And I know that there's a couple of issues you'd like to touch on, and let's start off with delinquent assessments.
Well, that's an interesting one, and there is an explanation in Lakeviews that's coming out Thursday. So that's got a lot of detail, but the short version of the story is we've been carrying delinquencies back from virtually inception of the association. Those are old, and the sequence is you get a court order and there's an amount owed, and then you have to follow up on that to get collections. And we've recently done that. In fact, since about the middle of last year of 2018, we've been working that quite hard, and we've collected right around 100,000 of older assessments, including older and older, more current assessments. Current assessments is this year's assessments. And our rate there, by industry standards, is quite good. We're in the good category, which is right around 4%, 4.5%. We watch it every month, and our business manager, Chuck Wimberly, and his staff works on that very closely. So in addition to taking a look at these old assessments that are due, and then taking correct action, and some of them just become uncollectible. We're talking about people who are deceased, who haven't owned property for years in some cases, and so there's virtually no chance of collecting. The standard procedure is to write that off so it doesn't give a false impression of money's owed, and there's some of that in that million, but as I said, we're whittling away at that. And then with the current delinquencies, we work that very hard, make sure that we've actually put in place the policy, which is after due process and work by the compliance committee, they're denied access to amenities, barcodes are disabled, and so forth. And we do work individual cases. Sometimes people run into extraordinary circumstances, and all we ask them to do is come in and explain what their situation is and what they can pay. We like to keep the accounts alive. So we are working the current delinquencies too. Even though the rate is good, we're so big that even at 3 or 4 or 4.5%, that's still an awful lot of money on an annual basis. Right. So we're working both ends hard.
One of the other things that there's been chatter out there on social media and in people's mailboxes, did the pool really cost significantly, considerably more than was budgeted? And it would be great to hear from your point of view your response to that.
It's an interesting story, and the complete detailed explanation is being posted on the webpage. There's about a 700-word white paper that I wrote last August. It was published, but we're putting it on the webpage so people can take a look at it. But the short version of that is that there was an original estimate, and then the pool ended up costing more than that, but several things intervened, including deciding that the location of the current pool was the best place for the new pool. Well, that greatly increased the true cost of excavation. When you're excavating an old pool to get ready to put a new pool in, that's a lot more work and it costs more. The truth is, we went out for bids, got 3 bids, evaluated that through a very professional process. Angie Cook is highly experienced at evaluating large dollar contracts. Not that $1.5 million is small, but she's worked at a much more grandiose level in her professional experience. So we did something called value engineering, and we were able to, where you take a look at what you can do to save costs, and we reduced the costs, the going-in cost, by about $116,000. A little bit of that got whittled away. We did have to replace the diving board. It was cracked. We thought we could use the old board. And then since we've had one pump that we kept, one of the two pumps, it failed right at the beginning of the season, unfortunately, and we had to replace that. So, you know, we've been following right along with budget, sometimes a couple of percent higher, sometimes slightly lower than budget. And when we get the final invoicing, it takes quite a while to get to your final cost. We'll publicize that, but I'm confident it would be well within what people would consider a normal range for a big project like that. We know the pool is great. People are really enjoying it. And the snack bar has been a great addition to that, so it's been a real plus for the community.
Good.
I would encourage any family that in the past hasn't had pool membership to take a look.
Yeah.
I think it's a great addition to the community.
And for those people who do want to glance at that white paper, you say it's on lmoavoice.org?
Yes, it will be shortly.
Okay, it
Yes.
will be, okay. And then the maintenance building is another issue that's come up. And I think there might be some misunderstanding about whether it's been budgeted and the cost and the construction, and maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, the staff, as directed by the board, is looking into it and doing a lot of research. So all we have right now is a placeholder in the reserve study, and that was an estimate by the engineers who did the reserve study. By the way, an engineer did the study, he visited, and the report was peer-reviewed at the company, Reserve Advisors. So it's a highly professional document. So they listened to what we thought we needed, and they put I wouldn't even call it an estimated amount, just a placeholder in the reserve study. And so we're currently looking at locations and what's the best way to do it. And you know, when you go through a project like that, it's not done until it's done. The money's not committed. There's no final plans. You know, that has to go through a whole process.
Right.
And again, Angie Cook is working that one very hard with a design company that we work with.
So it's really premature at this point to talk about it in any concrete
Yes,
form.
I would say.
Okay. So let's move on to food and beverage, one of the favorite subjects about the lake. The pub is offering music at night. They're having open mic night. They've just changed their menu to the summer menu. And Lakeside is going to be open the 4th of July, which we'll talk about a little bit later when we talk about the 4th of July. Can you talk a little bit about food and beverage and the status now and what the vision is for the future?
This is a very important subject. It's a huge feature of life here for many people and really for everybody because it's available, and we would encourage people who haven't come to the pub to give it a try. So financially, which is a big picture, there were some claims of kind of disastrous losses through the year if we continued a trend that started at the beginning of the year. So there's several factors there. One is the winter months are always slow, and we probably underestimated how slow the winter is compared to the busy season, which we're in right now. So it's a bit of a budget matter, but more importantly, we have a great internal audit committee with highly professional and experienced people. And they offer to come in and take a look at our business practices. So despite the flow of the calendar, you know, that's only a partial explanation. They have dug in, rolled their sleeves up, and got into it so that we now get a day-by-day analysis of profit or loss status through a month. In addition to that, they've dug in and advised us in a report that's going to be presented to the board, so until that happens, it's not final. But they had a series of recommendations, many of which bear on the business practices and planning. And then connected to that is how we could go, how, in their opinion, we could go about making sure the critical elements of service and reliability and predictability of menus and food delivery, people being served in a time frame that was acceptable. They've commented on all of that, and an awful lot of those recommendations are doable at the staff level. We have already enacted some. I think it'd be hard to notice it for the average customer. But under Andrew Kerper's leadership, we put a bunch of those into effect already, and with many more to come. And we think that's going to have an effect on continuing a trend that started once we started getting this data from the audit committee. We were able to just start bending the cost curve in a positive direction. Neither the committee nor I or Chuck Wimberly or the board is willing to say problem solved.
Right.
financially, but it certainly pointed in the right direction with a lot more work to do. But Andrew's committed to it, along with the staff, and so am I. And so we're moving along and look forward to positive things there.
Good.
I would encourage people to come to the pub. If they haven't before, it's, I think, the best restaurant for many miles around.
Well, and it's pretty much common knowledge that the restaurant business is a difficult business under the best of circumstances. And you see really good restaurants in urban areas, come and go. Staffing is difficult. I know I was a food server for many years in high school and college, and had the energy and the if you're living on tips and a few dollars a week or a night, you would think that you were in good shape. But a lot of the food servers and the people who work behind the kitchen, it's their livelihood. It's not just supplementing an income. So we have to remember to treat them well and make sure that we take care of them too. If we get good service and we enjoy our meal, that we should thank them and make sure that they stick around for a while, because it's important to retain good staff and good employees.
Yes, and we have in many spots young staff.
Yes.
Eager to learn, and in many cases they are learning.
Yes.
But again, Andrew's committed to carving out the time, so to speak,
Good.
for that, and we're looking forward to that
Good.
as an important part of delivering the service that's expected.
Right. Staffing. There have been some staff changes in the administration at Lake Monticello. Some switching around, some part-time, full-time, some things that help with efficiency and being able to serve the community. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yes, we've added some staff and deleted a position. We used to have a full-time, part-time position at the front desk. We've changed that, and we just cover when we have to cover with the staff that's at Ashlawn, and that's worked very well. We've also realigned some duties. We, most importantly, added a field representative to the ECC compliance office. That was a very much understaffed function, and I hope people believe that the community looks better. It takes a lot of work to communicate to owners of homes that the way it's being maintained doesn't meet standards, and it does impact the life of the entire community, way beyond just neighbors. That appears to be going very well in terms of making sure we're communicating with people and getting the corrections that are needed. I think a major proof of that is at one point, just a few months ago, we had put out 1,100 rather, of the dreaded notice letters, which have to be a bit legalistic. It's just an absolute requirement that they be rather formal. But the total number of people at the end of the process that actually get charges imposed by the compliance committee for failing to comply, at one point that 1,100 turned into 30.
Wow,
so there's
that's
a
great.
huge amount of compliance. Most of it almost in the first couple of days or weeks.
So can you clear up this misconception that the first notice is also a fine? People are given the opportunity to remediate what they need to take care of to be in compliance before they're fined.
That's absolutely true. It's kind of a no harm, no foul letter, except we are saying here's what it would take and here's a deadline. And if someone has a problem, they're about to go away for a month, they have no family close, or they're accumulating the funds to put a new roof on, or whatever the issue is, it's always better to communicate to the ECC compliance office and let them know your plans if it's something that they just can't comply with as quickly as is asked for.
Right, and that's Carol Kavanaugh.
Yes.
And her email address we can post, but also can be found on the LMOAvoice.org.
That's correct.
Okay, and you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the youth activities that have been happening around the lake that have happened, are happening now, and are going to happen. So
this is a great thing and a real plus, and some of the staffing has been either added part-time positions or beefed up duties for existing positions. So we've been able to coordinate with Fluvanna County Parks and Recreation in particular and other entities too to add youth programs. So we recently had a tennis program. There's a great picture in the newspaper that's coming out about that. It's charming. And then we just had this week the start of the first youth camp for 20 youngsters here at the lake. Not just for Lakers, it's, people who don't live at the lake are welcome to it. It's a county program, but it's day camp for a week. We've had the first, and there's another one in July, and it's very exciting. And so it does take staff to set that up. We have to go through the legal process of getting an MOU in place, make sure your insurance company knows about it and has appropriate coverage, and that the county fully agrees. We found the county to be tremendously helpful and cooperative. In fact, obviously we couldn't have the program without them, so we're grateful for it. In addition, we have the swim team, and we have all kinds of youth activities. I hope with much more to come, but this is a great start.
Well, and as you mentioned, people will be getting lake views in their mailbox this Thursday or Friday, depending where they are at the lake. And I think there's a whole page dedicated to just the kids' activities, which I think is a wonderful thing. Lake Monticello is looked at as a retirement community, and it's just not anymore. That's in the past, and the future is being welcoming with open arms all people of all ages and families, and offering the kids' activities is a great plus for the lake community.
It's a very big deal, and of course, we have a parent advisory council for youth activities and volunteers for that, so that shows you how important it is. Parents are actually voting with their feet, and those younger families, unless we have retired 12-year-olds, are pretty obvious.
So speaking of voting, and because we're coming to the end of our episode, I did want to show people, this is the booklet that we've been talking about voting. I've seen on Facebook recently that people say, what booklet? So it's a yellow booklet that property owners will have gotten at their addresses, whether they live here at the lake. If they're renting a house, they'll be getting them at their address where they live. The member number is located above your address on the back of the booklet. So if you have a question about that and want to vote online, that's the number that you refer to. And your proxy is here. I have not voted yet, but I fully intend to very soon. The proxy needs to be in at 5 p.m. on Monday, June 24th. That gives the election committee plenty of opportunity to tally those votes. And then if you want to vote in person, it's Saturday, 10 to 1 at Fairway, where we are here at the golf course, on Saturday. And you want to emphasize the importance of voting for a second?
Absolutely. Voting is the primary and direct way for owners to participate, separate from volunteering for committees, clubs, and of course the board. And in fact, it's a responsibility of owners to do that. There are proposals that are important to each and every property owner and resident. Of course, the tenants don't get to vote.
Right.
But it's very important for the owners to vote. It's a direct way to participate. And I should say that the vote is conducted by a committee. It's completely hands-off from the board, the staff. I have no knowledge of what's going on with the voting. I'll hear the results at the same time everybody else does.
Right.
The same is true for the board. It is a very much above board situation.
And there's a third party involved too,
yes,
isn't there?
Yeah,
yes.
and it should be. And that's very important for people to know.
Okay. So as we wrap up, just a quick mention about 4th of July for people who want to put this on their calendars is, speaking of kids' activity, there's a child's putting contest here at the golf course at 9 a.m. If you want to swim across the lake, which is a very, very popular feature of the 4th of July every year, remember there's a mandatory test that you have to go to the pool, take the test, and you have to do that by July 3rd to be qualified to swim the lake. Want safety first. If you want to join Party Like a Patriot, the tickets to the Lakeside Restaurant event on the 4th of July, it's $20, and you can get them here at the pub, the tickets at the pub. Boat parade, pool party, and fireworks, just to name a few things that are happening that day. And so everyone needs to be sure to stay safe on the 4th, but enjoy it. It's one of the great traditions at the lake that families of all ages can enjoy. And the parade on July 3rd. Don't want to forget that around the community. So be sure to see all those details and lake views in this Thursday edition. So anything else?
Nope, very glad
as we
for
wrap
this,
up?
glad to have this opportunity to discuss things that are very important to the community. And this all starts with questions, so people should feel free.
Right.
I know social media is a big thing, and there's a lot of comment on it, but if people really do, if people want an answer to a question, they should feel free. Email Judy Fish, of course, our communications director, or me directly, or the heads of the departments.
Right.
We're very serious about points that are made, and they often give us pause for thought and action.
But also join committees. There's lots of opportunities to participate in the lake process and what happens here, and so we hope people take advantage of that too. So we're wrapping up for today, and thank you again to General Manager Steve Hurwitz for joining us today. And our wish for you is be nice, take care, and we'll see you around the lake.